Let's first get you the latest as far as the West Asia conflict is concerned. Donald Trump has just confirmed that the US delegation is leaving for Pakistan soon. He confirmed that the team will be in Islamabad tomorrow evening for negotiations. Trump further says in his latest post on Truth Social that if Iran does not agree to their deal, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy. That's the post put out by Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, who has not just warned Iran, but has also threatened them of attacks on their power plants and bridges. So on one hand, there are truce talks that are supposed to take place in Islamabad. On the other, threats coming in as well from Donald Trump. Now let's take you through some details that have come to fore in terms of what he said. This is what Donald Trump said. Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in Strait of Hormuz. It's a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. Representatives are going to Pakistan tomorrow for negotiations. We are offering a very fair and reasonable deal. I hope they take it, because if they don't, then US is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. Time for Iran killing machine to end. So that's what the post says by US President Donald Trump, threatening, warning that if the deal is not agreed upon, then that will lead to more attacks on power plants and bridges. We have some more breaking inputs coming in on the broadcast. Now, this is about the delegation that will be heading to Islamabad for further talks. Countdown to round 2 of dialogue between US and Iran. Suspense remains over J.D. Vance's visit to Pakistan. There are multiple versions that are coming to fore. There are some reports which suggest that J.D. Vance will lead the delegation. The other reports say that Vance won't be visiting Pakistan, and that is due to security reasons. So this is what we're given to understand. Even as US is preparing for talks with Iran and Pakistan, the suspense is mounting over the presence of the Vice President J.D. Vance during these talks. Let me go across. Srinjoy is getting us more details. Srinjoy, there are multiple versions doing the rounds. One version says he will be leading the talks. The second one says due to security reasons, he may not go.
Yes, eventually we'll have to see what the president himself says, because if there are security issues, naturally Vance cannot go. But then Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who is also Trump's son-in-law, will be there, and that is a reasonably powerful delegation in itself. So importantly, regardless of what the delegation is, whether Vance is there or not, it's important to see how it goes, because they are both high-powered people, Witkoff and Kushner, and they can always pick up the phone and call Trump if necessary, or even Vance. But how will the talks go? That's very important. Will there be a breakthrough? And equally importantly, will the ceasefire be extended? Because that seems to be very crucial. If you're going to talk and fight, it will be more difficult to find a solution.
Absolutely. While there are multiple versions coming in on the delegation, US delegation to take part in this negotiation with Iran, we are still awaiting an official confirmation or at least a statement by Iran. Srinjoy, do stay on with us. We have more breaking inputs coming in on the broadcast. Just ahead of talks, Iran's president says the continuation of the conflict will not be in the interest of any party, and we are not seeking to expand the scope of war. So that's a fresh statement coming in. Is that a hint as far as a breakthrough is concerned when he says that we are not seeking to expand the scope of the war? Let's ask Srinjoy about that. Srinjoy, it cannot be more clear than this, that the continuation of the conflict will not be in anyone's interest. That's what Pezeshkian has said. He's also saying that they're not seeking to expand the scope of war.
Yes, first of all, the president seems to be coming up with a very sensible position. But is this the same position that the Revolutionary Guard have? So that's the important thing. Secondly, what is this position? Is this position similar or in any way like the American position? Yes, it's very important not to have war, but your talks have to be based on something. And if these talks have to be based on something, it will be, number one, the Strait of Hormuz. So is there any way both sides can agree on the Strait of Hormuz issue? Secondly, the nuclear issue. Can both sides agree on the nuclear issue? Thirdly, is any sort of compromise involving any other third issue involved? Fourthly, when, let's assume Vance isn't going to be in Islamabad, let's say Witkoff and Kushner, when they go back or when they are going back, will they come back with something which will be beyond a doubt, something positive? Can Kushner and Witkoff say to the world that, look, we have extended the ceasefire and we have a breakthrough? It need not be on everything, but even if there's a breakthrough on one issue,
right,
that we at least have begun well.
Absolutely.
That's the important thing.
That would mean that more rounds of negotiations could take place. But remember, Pezeshkian apologized to the Gulf countries, and then later, after facing internal backlash, he had to issue or was forced to issue a clarification. We'll discuss that in just a bit. We have more breaking inputs coming in, so enjoy, do stay on with us. Now, the Iranian media claims that there is currently no decision by Iran to send a negotiating delegation to Pakistan as long as there is a naval blockade. So no confirmation coming in from Iran. No decision, in fact, according to Iranian media reports, Srinjoy. No decision taken on whether or not Iran is going to take part, because there is a naval blockade by the United States. So as long as that is going to be there, Iran still not able to decide whether they want to take part in the negotiations or not.
First of all, that naval blockade, it's there till we last heard. The important thing is, if the Iranians aren't sure about going across to Pakistan, which is next door, how can Kushner and Witkoff leave Washington for Islamabad? It's a long flight, and they surely know whether the Iranians are going to be there or not. They are not going to be in Islamabad to talk with the Pakistanis. They are going to be there to talk with the Iranians. So if the Iranians haven't decided as yet whether to go across or not, why would Witkoff and Kushner get on a flight?
Absolutely. So you're saying that unless that happens, the US delegation won't move, or Donald Trump would not confirm. Maybe perhaps the Iranian side would issue a statement on that, on who all are part of the delegation. But at the moment, as we speak, there certainly is a suspense over whether or not J.D. Vance is going to be there. Stranger, do stay on with us. Now, the second front opens at the sea, the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Supreme National Security Council has formally reasserted control over the waterway, stating that all maritime movement through the strait will operate under Iranian oversight. In its detailed position, the council says vessels will be required to submit full movement details and receive prior clearance before transit. It adds that passage will be governed by security conditions and operational costs, and warns that any disruption or violation linked to ceasefire terms will be treated as an escalation. Most significantly, Tehran says it reserves the right to restrict or prevent even partial reopening of the strait if hostilities continue. At the same time, the United States has pushed back sharply. President Donald Trump has rejected Iran's position, saying the Strait of Hormuz cannot be used as a tool of political pressure or what he called blackmail in negotiations. He maintains that commercial shipping must remain free and uninterrupted, and warns against any attempt to link maritime access to the broader nuclear or ceasefire talks. Meanwhile, we have some breaking inputs coming in on the broadcast, and this is on the U.S. naval blockade. Iran has condemned the blockade, has called it illegal and a breach of ceasefire. Iran's foreign ministry declared that U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports and coasts violates the Pakistan-mediated ceasefire, international law, and constitutes a war crime, a crime against humanity. Srinjoy continues to be with us on the broadcast. I quickly want to take this across to you, Srinjoy, as we are discussing the negotiations. Here is, more information coming in through both the nations that suggests that escalation.
See, the point is, you're going to have a conversation, sit across the table. And if you're going to sit across the table and discuss these very difficult subjects, do you want to say all these things right now? And this applies to both countries. If you're going to say all these things already how are you going to negotiate? Because what you're doing by saying all this is hardening your positions, hardening your stances. Then if you harden your stance, then what are you going to say to each other when you actually meet in Islamabad? Because you've already told the world what your positions are. Now, if your positions are what they are, how are you going to go to Islamabad and say, well, these were our positions and we are changing our minds? And then that would be embarrassing for both sides. So why such statements are being made by both sides on the eve of such important talks is actually is a question that needs answering, because these statements can have the potential of being self-defeating.
Absolutely. Do stay on with us to enjoy. Let's, in fact, take a look at the statements that have come in. You spoke about how both nations are hardening their stand. This is what Iran has said. Iran will maintain control of Hormuz till the war ends. Vessels must provide full information and also receive clearance. Passage subject to security, safety and costs. Any disruption will be treated as violation of ceasefire. Will prevent even limited reopening if hostilities continue. This is what the Supreme National Security Council of Iran has said. And what began as a brief window of relief in the Strait of Hormuz and now spiraled into a full-blown flashpoint after declaring the waterway open during the ceasefire. Iran has once again shut the strait, blaming continued US pressure. But the fallout has hit India directly. Two India-bound vessels, Sanmar Herald and Jug Arnab, were forced to turn back after Iranian gunboats opened fire while they attempted to cross the Hormuz choke point yesterday. No injuries have been reported, but the message is clear. The Strait of Hormuz is no longer a safe passage. And now a chilling distress call from the high seas is going viral, laying bare the confusion and fear on board. A crew member from the tanker Sanmar Herald is heard desperately trying to communicate with Iranian forces as shots are fired around them. The crew can be heard urgently trying to establish contact with Iranian forces, repeatedly identifying themselves and referring to earlier clearance to pass through the strait. Within moments, the situation escalates and the crew realizes they are being fired upon despite that clearance. Panic sets in, communication turns frantic, and the tanker crew then makes it clear they are aborting the passage. These are the details that have come to fore. Let's take a look. The first ship was Sanmar Herald, which is a crude oil tanker carrying Iraqi crude to India. The other one is called Jug Arnab, also an India-flagged, India-bound cargo vessel that departed from Al Jubail, Saudi Arabia, that were forced to turn back after the firing began. A firing incident was reported. The Ministry of Shipping and Ports has just released a statement on the attack on India-flagged vessel in the Strait of Hormuz. It reads, and I quote, in the past 24 hours, two Indian vessels, VLCC Sanmar Herald and bulk carrier Jug Arnab, reported a firing incident while transiting the Strait of Hormuz, following which they returned to the Persian Gulf. There has been no injury to any crew reported. The ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran in New Delhi was called in yesterday by the Ministry of External Affairs for a meeting with Foreign Secretary, and during the meeting it was conveyed through the ambassador India's concerns as far as the shooting incident is concerned that involves two Indian flagged ships in the Strait of Hormuz. He noted the importance that India attached to the safety of merchant shipping and mariners. So this is a statement that was released by the government in which the developments that took place after the firing incident have been mentioned. No injuries were reported, and this is how India communicated its views and concerns to the Iranian authorities. Now, of course, in India, the response has been swift. New Delhi has summoned the Iranian envoy, conveying deep concern over the incident. The Iranian envoy, Dr. Mohammad Fatali, was summoned by MEA for a meeting at 6:30 p.m. yesterday. He met the MEA Joint Secretary for the Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran desk. The Ministry of External Affairs has stressed the importance of safety for Indian vessels and seafarers, urging Tehran to immediately restore safe passage through the strait. Speaking on the issue, Dr. Abdul Majid Hakim Elahi, the representative of Iran's supreme leader, emphasized that relations between India and Iran remain strong and expressed hope that the situation will be resolved peacefully.
Actually, I said the relationship between Iran and India is very, very strong, and I don't know anything about this event which you mentioned, and we hope that it will be okay and it will solve.
And with